Hello, everybody.
Welcome back.
I'm Kira.
I'm Max.
And this is In Case It Helps, the podcast where we have a little chat, share a little fact, and dole out some advice to your questions in case it helps.
Yeah.
It's episode 2.
We back.
We back, baby.
You know, I think it's something like 20% of podcasts only have one episode. Of like all podcasts in the world.
20%?
Something like that. My dad texted me this fact about a month ago, so I'll fact check it. Wow. Here's the actual number. And there's also like something like 60% only have 10 episodes. So
Wow.
we're shooting for the moon here.
Amazing.
How was your week?
My week was lovely. Our week was very entwined this week.
Yes, we were together this week, which was nice.
Max's parents were in town, my in-laws, and we had lots of good eats and good drinks
Just
and good
catch-ups.
chat. It was also a very, very busy week. I had a lot of work going on, but we did it. We made it, and it was great. It was great on both fronts.
With that in mind, can I ask you a couple of questions about your week?
Please.
Kira.
Max, my love.
What was the best thing that you ate this week?
Ooh, Max made Cubanos.
Oh, yeah.
Cuban press sandwiches.
My Cubanos were good. If I may say so, it was the whitest boy. They were pretty good.
No, they're unbelievable. It was like a 24-hour mojo pork.
Yeah.
The pork had a lot of mojo.
Mojo likes you.
Mojo likes you.
Mojo likes you.
It was so good, and it also meant that we stocked Pickles The Long Way to put on the sandwiches, and I ended up snacking on a lot of Pickles The Long Way.
I love Pickles The Long
I
Way.
love Pickles
There's
The
an
Long
indulgence when you extend beyond the chip.
Well, it's because the surface area to skin ratio changes, and it
And
feels
the absorption
exorbitant.
of the brine is much better.
Mm-hmm. I like a sweet pickle. Generally, I tend to go for a Vlasic bread and butter. Shout out Vlasic.
Can we get
the
a
classic
Vlasic sponsorship?
Oh my!
up in
I
here?
would love a Vlasic sponsorship up in
For
here.
your pickle needs, guys. Come on. Vlasic, classic. Can't be beat.
But Pickles The Long Way really served me well this week.
Pickles The Long Way.
What was the best thing you ate this week?
The best thing I ate this week was a drink. Kira's dad has a beautiful wine collection, collected over many, many years, probably decades at this point, and he brought out some fantastic wines that we were very lucky to have. Highlights included early 2000s Maris and Cardinale. Dominus came out as well, made an appearance, which
the
is
Dominus
excellent.
was crazy. Yeah, Max and I both have interests in wine to varying degrees. Both of our dads were big wine lovers who knew a lot and had extensive collections. Max recently pursued this side quest to the extent that Max Chester tends to pursue side quests, which is fully and with heart and verve and an incredible knack for picking up new skills. He got his sommelier certification, got 100% on the exam, the only person in his class to do so.
I went full nerd mode.
And this is something that people study years and years for, and he managed to just like absorb it within a couple of months. It was pretty intense studying, but it was great.
An intense couple months. But
I
it
learned
was
a lot from
fabulous.
osmosis, from
Kira
like
is
quizzing
the best
you.
student too, and so now we have this beautiful shared hobby where I learned a ton of stuff, taught her a ton of stuff.
Yeah. And as with most things in our life, the more you know about something, the more joy there is to be gleaned from it. I think a lot of people think that once you know about wine, they go, oh, you must spend so much money now that you're a wine snob. And
you can only have good
You can only
things,
have good wines. And we always say, no, it saves us money because A, you know what to look for. So you can get great, interesting bottles that are fun experiences to drink and learn about rather than just
underrepresented parts of the world that don't have the same, price tags attached.
And also it means that even a bad glass of wine is an enjoyable experience because it's a chance to learn something and discuss why is it a bad glass of wine.
You can put on your detective hat and figure out what happened in the vineyard or the barrel or the bottle that resulted in this being bad, and it just turns it from bad to bad and a puzzle, which is better than just bad, I think.
Also, for what it's worth, it's a great party trick when Max is able to blind taste and know exactly like what region and what producer and what year the wine is from.
That's a fun one. Second question. What was the best thing you watched this week?
I finally watched Anora, and what a feat of indie filmmaking.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
I mean, Sean Baker, man.
Funny, beautifully shot, beautifully acted, great casting. Mikey Madison's performance is wonderful and transformative and fun. And I totally understand why it was lauded so heavily and got all the accolades and praise that it did. But, he talks about how indie filmmaking is important because it's how you're able to get stories told that might not get support from big studios. And indie filmmaking, of course, is struggling right now. And so it's nice when an indie film is able to help make that statement of how important it is to keep that whole part of the industry alive.
Yeah.
Also, pole dancing, incredibly impressive.
Yeah, as an athletic feat.
What a feat of athleticism.
So impressive.
Very cool that she managed to get that good at it for that film. I love when an actor learns a new skill or a new accent or learns a new language or starts to play a new instrument for a role. I feel like it's such a beautiful thing that storytellers do to tell stories properly. I'm a sucker for it. I always think it's great. Call me the Oscars. What can I say? What's the best thing you watched this week?
The best thing I watched this week was probably Anora, but my answer will be I took myself on a solo date, which you should all be doing, to go and see Elio.
Ah.
And I went to see it specifically because it was a bit of a flop at the box office. And I was like, what's this all about? I want to go and give an assessment. And my assessment is that it's great. It's just post-COVID, and I think parents with little kids have realized that it's much easier to watch films at home where they can pause and make snacks.
I do also think the marketing maybe didn't do it justice. It sort of had it has that sort of CalArts 3D art style that a lot of the last few movies have had, and I wonder if it sort of fell into the like Luca, Coco, Elio, like these 4-letter movies with this 3D bubbly art style where people might have just not even realized it was like a new movie.
I think it'll do an Elemental. I think it'll go onto streaming and have a super long tail and make $500 million on the back end. Like, if I were Mr. Disney right now, I would not be worried about it.
It also stars Jonas Asuncion Kibriab, who was very, very close to booking the role of Jinx in the Thundermans Undercover. We had 3 really talented boys get to the final for that role, and I got so emotionally invested in all of them. We did ultimately pick Nathan Broxton, who's wonderful, not just in the show, but like he's such a great special kid. But when casting was over, I really wanted to message Jonas and like the other kids who got close and just be like, you're so good. Like, this is just how casting is. Sometimes it just comes down to like, you got to pick. Anyway, I guess if you're a young actor watching this and you've gotten close to some roles and not booked them, just let this be your confirmation that like the producers are in fact really rooting for you. And we do build emotional connections even if you don't get it. Anyway.
Best word that you learned this week?
Oh, I have a good one this week. Best word I learned this week is ameliorate, which is to make something better, to improve a situation, but it specifically has the connotation of doing so by removing or softening a negative aspect of it. You could say the ginger root tea did much to ameliorate his nausea. Like, it made him feel better.
Took a bad thing and sort of worked to try and fix it.
But I'm so excited to have ameliorate in my vocabulary now because, like, there are places where you could just use improve, but ameliorate communicates a very specific kind of improvement. And it's funny because, you know, we both are big word nerds and we both tout the magic of having a more expanded vocabulary and being able to communicate more effectively. But sometimes we will have people respond to that sentiment and kind of go, well, why are you making it harder than it needs to be? Why use big words, fancy words? Why not just use kind of normal, quote unquote, words? And I always am trying to express that it's not about using fancier words or trying to sound smart or be elitist or obfuscate the point that you're trying to make. It just gives you a greater ability to actually communicate what you're trying to communicate, to be precise and accurate. That being said, obviously, like, you do need to meet people where they're at. You don't want to be like throwing words at a 4th grader who's not going to understand your point. But I also think that it's condescending to not use words because you think someone might not know them. I would rather us all be using whatever the best words we can find are, the most fun words. And then if somebody uses a word with you don't know, to go, what's that word? And look it up. And then
I love
you know
when
it.
someone uses a word that I don't know.
Me too.
It's a chance for me to know more words, which is the point.
Don't even get me started on etymology.
I'm probably going to get you started on
We'll have some long etymology conversations later on, but my very distilled version of my take is like, it's not just a random fact. A, it's a story about how a word came to be. Etymology is history more than it is linguistics. And B, it's a really easy way to remember what the hell words mean.
Yeah. Can I ask you the next question?
Please ask me the next question.
Oh, I can't ask you the next question.
I've
got a word to give.
Maximilian.
Yeah.
What's your word?
Panglossian.
Ooh.
Which means overly optimistic, especially in the face of hardship or adversity, a sort of toxic positivity.
Is that named after a character named Pangloss?
It is named after Dr. Pangloss from Voltaire's Candide.
Ooh.
This is cool. I did some digging. Dr. Pangloss is basically this guy who walks through the world and sees war and executions and syphilis and natural disasters, you name it. And he's like, this must all be for the best. Turns out this book was a subtweet, or a roast, for those of you who are lucky enough not to know what a subtweet is. And it was a roast of a philosopher called Leibniz, who we know for many things, but one of Leibniz's things was he said that if God created the world, it must be the most perfect world possible because God created it by definition. And therefore all of the terrible things that happen were on purpose.
This bitch don't know about Pangea.
Exactly. And so Voltaire was like, hold my quill, and he pumped out Candide, which is just like this brutal satire of Dr. Pangloss going around and seeing the universe on fire and everyone bleeding and being like, this is great. And so it's a Leibniz subtweet. Also fun etymology, Pangloss, pan, all, like pantheon, gloss, tongue, literally all talk. No sense.
Wow.
Delicious, right?
Great one.
Question 4, $1 million idea of the week.
I have a good one this week.
Yeah.
a camera, ideally attached to a mobile device, that can capture vertical and horizontal footage simultaneously. I know you theoretically can film horizontally and then punch in, but then you're so tight, and if you film vertically, you're kind of screwed if you want to turn it into horizontal. And I am at any given moment trying to do vlog content for YouTube, vlog content for Instagram, a YouTube short, an Instagram reel, a TikTok. Like every day that I am filming content, I have to choose where it's gonna live. And it's such an opportunity cost. And when a moment happens and I pick up my phone and I'm like, which way do I want to capture this? It's frustrating, especially as a content creator, to have to choose. So Apple, could you get on that, please? Could you make me a camera that'll shoot vertically and horizontally? Thank you much. Maximilian.
I love that. That's great.
What is your $1 million idea?
I have a grudge against automatic doors. I'm relatively tall, and I'm a quick walker.
Thank goodness.
Quick walkers unite.
Can't deal with a slow walker.
Specifically, quick walkers unite around a common issue that I know we will face, which is that you're approaching the grocery store, and at the pace you're going, by the time you get to the area where the automatic door detects you and begins to open, you have to either stop or do an awkward half step. Like, it's never open wide enough by the time you get there because you're moving so fast. And so my $1 million idea is some kind of little RFID chip wearable type thing that can sit in my wallet. It just like puts me a foot or two in front of me so that the automatic door begins opening earlier.
The idea isn't just an automatic door with a slightly heightened sensitivity to distance that opens a little quicker?
This is very commercially shrewd of me because I think there are more tool people who would buy the RFID product than there are supermarkets willing to change their doors. So that's my pitch.
You're taking the capitalist approach, and I respect that.
It's a $1 million idea, not a $3 idea. Come on, guys, aim high.
All right.
That's my idea of the week.
That technology already exists.
I'm sure it does, and I'm sure an RFID in my wallet's not the way to do it either.
But I guess that's part of what makes it $1 million idea is you're spotting a gap in the market and technology that already exists. You just need to repackage it.
Yeah,
so.
And also I think part of the charm of this segment is coming up with massively over-engineered solutions to fairly inconsequential problems.
Well, regardless, if they ameliorate your discomfort at the Ralphs, then by all means.
Final question.
Yeah.
What was the best fact you learned this week? It's a good one.
It's such a good one. Grapefruits are called grapefruits because they grow like grapes. That's the fact.
On bunches?
In bunches. They grow in bunches.
That's crazy.
I know.
Huh.
Insert photo here. Who knew? They have nothing to do botanically, biologically with grapes. They're not in the same family. Fun fact, we did actually recently realize that cherries and almonds are in the same botanical family, and that's why the flavor of cherry and the flavor of almond are very similar. They have a chemical called benzaldehyde, and that's why they taste the same. Anyway, yeah, grapefruits grow in bunches like grapes, and that's why they were called that.
That's crazy.
They look like grapes.
I love that. I also learned something about grapefruits this week. I learned that they can interfere with medication.
Yes.
Because they have these things called furanocoumarins. Something which interferes with an enzyme which is responsible for breaking down medicine, basically like all types of medicine.
Yes.
And so if you have it, it suppresses the enzyme and more of the medicine enters your bloodstream.
I actually have known this for a very long time because several people in my family have at various points in their life been on a medication that causes you to have to avoid grapefruit. And we love Fresca in our household, which is like a grapefruit,
you can't have grapefruit
soda.
No.
We love Fresca. I grew up on Fresca.
Then if you already knew my grapefruit fact, I'll tell you a different grapefruit fact.
I get a second fact?
Second grapefruit fact. This is the extent of my knowledge on grapefruits.
It's a second grapefruit fact?
Second grapefruit fact.
Wow.
And then I'll tell you my actual fact, which is mind-blowing.
You could say that our grapefruit facts come in bunches.
Very good. My second grapefruit fact is that they were originally like yellow. That's the first grapefruit. And pink ones spawned from a genetic mutation simultaneously.
Whoa!
And people liked them so much that those are now like the grapefruits because they sell better. Can I tell you my fact?
We are going to get to your questions soon, I promise.
My fact this week is crazy. I learned this week that in 1989, for but a brief and glorious moment, Pepsi, the beverage company, had the 6th largest military in the world.
I'm sorry, what? Pepsi had a military?
I will explain. It's the Civil War, and the Soviet Union loves Pepsi. But because of sanctions, they can't pay for it in US dollars. So they come up with a brilliant plan, a deal. You give me Pepsi, I give you $3 billion of submarines. Trade offer. And also a frigate and something else and some cargo ships. And the transaction went ahead. And Pepsi ended up leasing it to a Swedish scrap company. But for a minute, they were packing some serious heat. Not a good week to be Mr. Coke or Dr. Pepper. And the story doesn't end there. After the transaction happened, the CEO of Pepsi at the time, a guy called Donald Pepsi, Donald Pepsi, the CEO of Pepsi, Donald Kendall, I think was his name. He called the US National Security Advisor and he said, I think that we're disarming the Soviet Union quicker than you are.
What?
Or words to that effect, which is pretty baller.
Wow. Episode title, Pepsi as a Submarine. Thank you for that. That was incredible.
I hope your life is as changed as mine was when I read this.
My mind's been blown.
Yeah. Should we dive into some questions on that note?
Time to dive into some real life questions. Wow.
Great. Our first question this week is from Declan.
Hi, Declan.
Declan writes, my therapist asked me what I do for fun, and I said email. How do I find a real hobby?
Maybe your hobby should be stand-up, because that's very funny. I'm so excited to have the chance to talk about hobbies.
Mm-hmm.
Big hobby fans over here. You've probably heard people say something along the lines of, you should have 3 hobbies, one that keeps you fit, one that makes you money, and one that keeps you social, or some version of that. I think that you can extend that to other things that you might need as a person, and this will segue really well into us sharing with you something that we love, which is the concept of bars and checking your bars, something you'll hear us talk about a lot. So something Max brought into my life, so I'll pass it to him to expand.
I love bars. Much though I would like to take credit for it, we have to fax that credit onwards to the people at EA Games, because I stole this from The Sims.
Yeah.
I loved The Sims growing up. If you don't know it, stop this, go download it, you'll have a much better time. The essential premise is that you have a little guy wandering through the world, navigating life, and you have to look after them, make sure they get enough food and enough sleep and enough fun, and these needs are represented as bars. And if the bars are full, your sim is happy. And if the bars start to shrink because you've not allowed your sim to see any friends, you'll start to get adverse side effects.
One of the integral bits of these bars is that they are always depleting at every moment, right? Because every moment that you're not spending actively increasing one of the bars, the amount of time since you last did is increasing, and therefore the bar is decreasing. So that's how we are as people, right? And we have identified kind of what our bars are. And everyone's bars are going to be different. And some bars, like you said, are mutually exclusive, but equally important, right? So like for me, I have a solo bar. Like I need a certain amount of solo time every so often. But I also have a social bar and I have a time with my partner bar. And all 3 of those are in tension because when one is getting invested into, the other ones are shrinking, right? I have sort of structure and routine versus the spontaneity bar, the feeling that I can kind of do whatever. I have health and fitness and feeling like I'm fueling my body and loving the way my body feels versus indulgence, because that's also a really important part of my life and what makes me feel like a real person and not a robot. So all this is to say, bars, a really great way to help you keep an eye on what you need. Also, the inspiration for the logo of this podcast, the
bar filling up.
Bar filling up for the eye of In Case It Helps. So let's talk about how that relates to hobbies. Find hobbies that help you very quickly fill bars that you know are important for you, right? If you need to spend a certain amount of time in nature to feel connected to yourself, find a hobby that makes you have to get outdoors. If you're a person who has kind of a social interaction with strangers bar, maybe get yourself into like a book club or a run club or like something that forces you to interact with people outside of your circle. I will acknowledge that like some hobbies do require financial resource, and that is unfortunate, and I don't ever want to invalidate the fact that that is a hurdle for a lot of people by being like, just do more hobbies. But a lot of hobbies don't, and this is where like finding online resources can be helpful, even just like studying, watching YouTube videos to learn more about things that you're interested in, or finding like free classes online, you know, go watch a crash course video on something that you're interested in learning about and make your own homework assignments. There's a little bit of a self-starterness required. Also, just like hit up your friends, be like, yo, what do the people in my life do for hobbies for fun? And then try them, get inspired. You won't like all of them, but that's how I found a lot of the hobbies in my life, is seeing a video of somebody bouldering. And I was like, that looks great.
The other thing that I will add is that while many hobbies present themselves in sort of familiar costumes, right, like chess, baking, crochet, run club, sometimes they don't, and they're sneakier. One example of this is sort of my favorite hobby of all time that I found, which is not really a hobby at all. It is speed running the beginning of hobbies.
Yeah.
Like trying to condense the first 3 months of the learning curve into as short a period of time as possible. You kind of talked about it at the beginning with the wine thing. The mental focus as you try to interact with huge amounts of information at a time is the hobby for me. And I'm not saying you have to be a psychopath, but what you can do
Ideally don't.
is just follow the little dopamine spikes that you get as you move through your life, because sometimes that's where the hidden hobbies live, and those can be fun too.
If you become a person who follows your curiosity, the hobbies will reveal themselves to
Yeah.
you. Something I would never think to tell people is one of my hobbies, but is one of my biggest hobbies, is I love learning every word of really wordy songs and raps.
Yes.
You know, like recently it was Alligator Bites Never Heal, Dochi. Just over and over studying until I could get every single word, except for the N-word, which I do not say, every word as perfect and getting the
And
intonation right
yeah.
and getting the articulation
The
right.
breaths.
Are they saying ing or t or d? You know, that's a hobby. But what is that hobby really? That hobby is my hobby of language, my hobby of music, my hobby of performing, my hobby
Yeah.
of brain teasers. Like you'll find things in unexpected places.
And if you just want the short answer, what is the best hobby to have? Killer Sudoku. And ideally greater than Killer Sudoku. Like if you just want to jump to the end point,
Don't.
that's it.
You'll hate yourself. Start halfway there and then build up.
I hope that helps, Declan.
I hope that
And
helps.
good luck finding hobbies.
Yeah,
It's
and
super
also
fun.
let's just shout hobbies at Declan that he might like. Bouldering, biking,
Volunteering at your national park.
go to the library. Libraries are great. Not really a hobby, but big fan of libraries.
There's a lot of stuff in there. It could be a hobby.
Video games can be a great hobby as long as you don't lose your sense for wanting growth and achievement in your real life because you're satisfied by the growth and achievement in a fake world. But learning the art of how video games are designed and created and programmed and how narrative storytelling works in video games can be great. Like, we love video games.
And it's a very legitimate art form.
Yep. Fitness, the gym. The gym
Yeah.
is a hobby.
Cooking.
Cooking,
Everyone profits from that one.
painting,
Painting.
doodling, drawing.
Plant mothering.
Plant mothering
Which
is a
has
good
a
one.
proper word. Gardening. That's the word.
We've been wanting to get into plant mothering. Okay.
There is a plant mother within me.
Happy hobby hunting, Declan. Who's
Happy hobby
next?
hunting, Declan. Question 2 today is from Luca.
Hi, Luca.
Luca says, I'm 23, single, and I feel like every girl I talk to is more emotionally evolved than me. How do I catch up?
Ooh, interesting question, Luca. I mean, the fact that you're asking this question at all sort of tells me that you might be more emotionally evolved than you're giving yourself credit for. I will say, you know, as much as I don't like to get gender essentialist with my takes, we do raise boys and girls differently in at least American society, the only society that I'm, you know, intimately familiar with. We do tend to hold girls to a higher standard when it comes to sort of emotional capabilities, right? Think about little 3 and 4-year-old boys and girls running around where the girls will get told, stop that, whereas boys might sometimes be met with, boys will be boys. So you might be right to an extent. I will also say, though, there is something to be said for, like, sort of false emotional maturity. I think sometimes, especially nowadays, people tend to sort of like borrow therapy language and use it wrong, and they will come across in a way that to the sort of layman sounds very emotionally mature and evolved, but is actually not. You know, we notice that on like shows like Love Island pretty often. Where
the last season of Love Island, every other sentence was, he's love bombing me. I'm
gaslighting,
being
love
gaslit.
bombing, and sometimes they're kind of right, or like it's close, but it's really dangerous
But also, like,
to start using
they're
therapy
being
language
used like
wrong.
flashbangs in the middle of an argument to get like emotional validity and legitimacy points, where this is therapized language. You should be using it like a therapist in private and with the aim to be compassionate and constructive.
Right. So basically, it feels to me like there's 2 options here. One is that the girls you're speaking to are not actually more emotionally mature and you should give yourself some more credit. And 2 is that they are, and you want to become more emotionally mature, more self-aware. Let's assume it's that. And if so, again, like, great, I'm proud of you. This is where I think mentorship really comes in handy. And this is where I'm going to pass it to you because I don't know what it's like to be a young man coming up. I mean, granted, we also are not the youngest generation right now. And I know
we're not,
the
but
young
I remember
generation.
what it was like to be 23. That wasn't that long ago.
I
It
want to
was yesterday.
acknowledge that, like, the young generation right now has issues
specific environment
that we didn't. You guys are growing up in a really difficult time where a lot of people have stunted social skills because of social media and because of COVID. And yes, you were a young man, and you've done a great job of becoming an old man.
A very old man.
So
I've not died yet, which is good.
What do you have to share?
How do you get better? From the question, I sense that step 1 here may be a little too basic for you, but there's a lot of people out there starting from ground zero. So I'm going to start from ground zero and hop on where it feels appropriate. Step 1 of becoming emotionally more mature, I think, is a relatively easy one because it's internal, which means that no one can judge you if you feel weird doing it. So there's no excuse. And it is recognizing when you have a feeling. That's literally it. When you get a text from your crush at the end of a movie, when you look in the mirror, just acknowledging and labeling that you are feeling something. And the label can be simple. It can be good, bad, I don't know, but it's definitely something. Like, any of those are fine. And the point is not to become broody and to ruminate all the time. The point is just to brush the cobwebs off of that little toy train that connects your intellectual and emotional infrastructure, because they probably haven't been talking enough.
Oh.
And so now we can get that back up and running, the little toy train. I'm glad. The second step, and you know I love the second step because I talked about it in the first episode, is split those feelings from your behavior. They are now separate things. The way you feel and the way you act are no longer the same. If someone does something that makes you angry, before you export that anger as your behavior, take literally just 1 second and think, could it have been by accident? Could I have misinterpreted? Could I be kinder in this moment? If I choose to be angry in my response, what will the effect be? And you can still choose to be angry if you feel like it's appropriate. The idea is not self-minimizing. The idea is just allowing your brain to be a second pair of eyes so that your gut doesn't betray your values, right, when it gives a reaction. Once you get good at that, I think we can start doing relationship stuff. And I don't think that it is just that men are ill-equipped to speak to girls in this way. I think men are ill-equipped to speak to everybody.
Each other.
It's just not part of it.
Yeah.
And so I think the best place to start is with your guy friends on the basketball court, on the tennis court, in the Call of Duty lobby while you're waiting. And I don't mean turn it into therapy. Like, we're not unpacking trauma, but I just mean like exercising casual emotion, getting onto the headset and being like, dude, I had the best day today. And when your friend asks why, say, I have no idea. I was just kind of feeling myself. Like, that's enough. That's as deep as it needs to get. But if you do that over and over again, you give everybody permission to just like be a little bit emotional and just say how they're feeling. And it doesn't have to be awkward. And that will then snowball. And then you get to step 4, which is girls. Hell yeah. Girls are great. But spoiler alert, the answer's the same as the boys. There's no difference. There's no secret language. And once you can get rid of the idea that there's an otherness to this and that we're essentially all just humans, the whole thing becomes easier. And that is the foundation upon which you can find mentors and platonic partners and romantic partners and everything that will build your life into a sense of abundant relationships. But that's my little pathway.
I want to add a couple of things to what you've said so beautifully. Yes. I think one of the places where sort of like a discrepancy between emotional maturities can be felt is in like fraught conversations, arguments, like texts. And I just want to connect this to why we're always talking about language. Every argument is just 2 people doing writing and reading comprehension. Like every argument, every conversation, but especially every argument comes down to, are you able to write the dialogue of what you're saying to accurately express what you mean to and to be heard the way you mean it to? And do you have the reading comprehension skills to take in what they are giving to you and understand what they mean by that? And if either one of those is off, there's going to be a disconnect that leads to a worse argument. So investing in your communication skills, both emotional, meaning being able to put yourself in someone else's position, being able to empathize, being able to acknowledge the way that they feel even when it's different than yours, and then building literally your language articulation skills will both help you so much when it comes to tense or emotionally charged conversations. And ideally, you get to a point where you can stop those conversations from ever becoming fights. We've been together for 5 years, and sometimes they'll say, we've never fought. And people go, what? There must be something wrong. They must be repressed. And I go, no, it's not that we've never fought. It's that we've never let a disagreement become a fight. We're both very good at literally understanding what the other person is trying to communicate. And there's also the skills of like learning how to put your anger aside and remember that you're on the same team. And like we could talk a lot about the things that we are both lucky that both of our parents taught us about how to have a healthy relationship. But yeah, when it comes to emotional maturity, I think that language capability can be a huge part of that. And the last thing I'll say is just being honest with yourself, which is way harder than it sounds. Yep. A lot of times being really radically honest with yourself like hurts like hell and sucks and is embarrassing. If you can just remember, like you said, like everything inside your own head is only yours. No one can hear it. No one's listening to your thoughts. Nobody knows what you're thinking. You can be honest with yourself, and that is your own head is a safe place to process and ideally find what you actually want and need to do to become the version of yourself that you want to be. So if you can get good at being honest with yourself about what's really working for you, what's not, what you're lying to yourself about, you can get a lot further in life quickly. Your head can and should be a safe space for you to do that.
Can I take 1 minute to touch on a topic that is very present and a little contentious, but I know there's going to be a lot of young guys watching, and I just want to like lay some groundwork because there's not a lot of it out there. I want to very, very briefly touch on the male loneliness epidemic. For those of you who don't know this term, it is thrown around a lot online. often as kind of a misogynist dog whistle, but often earnestly. The thesis is that women as a collective have retreated from interacting with men, and therefore that is creating male loneliness.
And therefore men need to get women
Get
by
women
being
to solve the problem.
violent or by, you know,
Yeah, I mean, it's
tricking
not,
them or whatever.
That's sort of the ultra red pill pipeline of it, but like the general thesis is just like, if you get a woman, the loneliness will be solved. And just a very brief logical examination of the statement says that if the only thing standing between you and loneliness is the presence of a woman, then the lack of a woman is not the problem. The problem is how close you are to loneliness.
Ooh.
Where are your male friends? Where are your peers? Where's your chosen family? Where's your real family if they're around? You know, like, one woman is not going to come in and fix a fundamentally broken support structure. And I don't say this to be mean. I say this because until you realize that you're putting all of this energy into hunting for a solution that ultimately isn't going to work, it's only going to calcify that gender divide that you feel between you and the girls in your life. And so again, like, if you're a young guy out there or an old guy out there, and you're just trying to make something good of your life and yourself in this confusing world, and you feel lonely, have a lot of sympathy for it, first. And second of all, it may not be your fault that you feel that way, but it is your responsibility to fix it. And you exercise that responsibility by doing the same steps that we just talked about with Luca's question. Sorry to hijack a question, Luca, which is you train yourself to be more emotionally literate, right? You label your feelings and acknowledge them. You separate your feelings from your behavior. You inculcate vulnerability into the male-dominated spaces in your life so that your friends can benefit too.
I don't know that word.
Inculcate, to instill by repetition.
Inculcate.
Again, specific meaning.
Right, there's no other word you could have used to get that point across so well. Can you give me another example sentence?
Yes. In the classroom, a teacher over semester will inculcate good values of studying into the children.
Ideally over season 1 of In Case It Helps.
We will
Max and Kira will inculcate helpful ideology.
Yes.
Yeah, awesome.
But yes, and so the fourth point is learning to recognize and undo the propaganda you have been exposed to that says that women are a prize or something external to your existence or something fundamentally different. And
yeah, we might be treated differently, but we are fundamentally very much the same.
And it's also not to minimize the fact that there are differences there. There are fundamental differences, but they're not the differences you think there are.
Right.
And you don't need to treat them the way that you are treating them. Right. So anyway, I just wanted to lay some groundwork on that because I know a lot of people are being exposed to it right now.
I'm personally very excited and grateful for your willingness to share all of the incredible knowledge and foundation that you have with the world, because I have been very lucky to see this very, very smart, kind, wonderful, gentle person. And I'm very grateful that you're sharing it with people because I think you can do a lot of good.
Thank you.
So thanks for that. Let's keep
Should we move on to question 3?
Yeah.
Great.
I gotta stop or else you'll know I like you.
Question 3 is from Jada.
Hi, Jada.
Jada writes, I'm 25 and I feel like everything I know and felt has changed. How do you deal? Also, please begin a workout routine.
Was this from my TikTok comment?
This is from your TikTok.
I remember seeing this one. Hi, Jada. Thank you for your comment. Ooh, good question. I want to first validate that a lot has changed. A lot has changed in our society because of the incredibly quick development of the technology that permeates our lives so deeply and so intensely. So you're not crazy. In terms of like who you feel you are and your perspective on the world, if you feel like that's changed a lot in the last several years, I think that's a good thing. Like, I think we are supposed to be different at 25 than we are at, 18 or 19. It's a totally natural and healthy part of life for your perspective to change as you take in new information and new experiences. Even I already look at my early 20s and I have so much like kind of pity and sympathy for that version of me that was like, I had so much to figure out. I'm still figuring things out, and we'll look back on ourselves at 35 and say so much has changed and everything has changed. So I guess my summary here is if you feel like you have changed, don't be ashamed of that. I think that's a great thing. It's like this meme that I love. They're like, dude, you've changed. Yeah, I hope so. We're supposed to. But in terms of feeling like everything has changed and the world has changed, yeah, it has. I tend to be kind of cynical with this stuff, but this is where Max is really helpful in keeping me grounded. Why don't you chime in here?
I think the biggest thing that strikes me about this question is just take a moment to pay attention to whether you dislike the specific change or the fact that there is change.
Yeah.
Because change is like scary for some people. Like I know you don't particularly love change.
It's an understatement.
But being scared of change is very different to being scared of the result of a specific change. If there are things that are different in your life that have left you feeling unmoored or stranded or in danger or vulnerable, pay specific attention to naming what that is, because once you've done that, you can work to find specific solutions. The answer may just be learning through repetition that you will survive change and that it's not all that harmful.
Mm-hmm.
And that will kind of eventually numb some of the anxiety that you feel from it.
Maybe part of the reason that being kind of 25 can feel so drastically different than being a teenager is for the first time in your life, in your early 20s, what your life looks like becomes almost entirely your responsibility and your choosing, which can be wonderful, but it's also a huge responsibility. And it's not something that people are constantly really reminding you of. And it can be very easy to kind of just like start letting your life happen, right? Because when you're young, your parents are setting up your extracurriculars and picking your school and kind of putting you with the people who will become your friends by way of proximity, etc. And then you become an adult, you know, quote unquote, and you go out into the world. And all of a sudden, there's no one doing that for you anymore. And if nobody has told you, hey, just so you know, this is something you should be doing now, you won't, which is totally fair. You know, you won't go, okay, I'm going to go sign up for a class to learn this. Okay, I'm going to go add this hobby, like we were talking about, or this extracurricular to my life. And your life might feel empty because it's no longer being filled up by other people. And so the moment that you can go, oh, I'm going to fill up my life with things, your life will get a lot better. So if the thing that feels different is that your life just feels emptier, I just would like to encourage you to have the agency to take the steps to fill it in one way or another. And maybe life will feel a little bit more like when you were a kid.
Please begin a workout routine. And if you could share your credentials as to why we're asking.
I will show my credentials. Here are my credentials. Lots of credit goes to my personal trainer, Max Chester. I was an athlete for many years before I met him, but I was an athlete in specific sports. I didn't really know how to use the gym. He helped me with that a lot. So between the two of us, we now have a good bit of science-based lifting and general health and fitness knowledge that we very much are excited to share with you throughout the course of this podcast. So yeah,
fire away.
Let me give you some of my tips. Find something you like. That's my number one tip when it comes to becoming somebody who is active. If you want to be someone who works out, find a type of workout that you find fun. It doesn't have to be easy. You don't have to like every second of it. Find a workout that you feel better after completing than you did before. In terms of specific beginner workout tips, good form over everything and mind-muscle connection is the most important thing. Identifying what muscle an exercise is supposed to be targeting and really making sure that's the muscle that's working and learning how to literally get your mind and muscles connected so that you're able to relax the other ones and have just the muscle you're working work. Form is important. The next thing that connects to that is start with really low weights so that you can actually target the muscle that you're trying to target. Sometimes a weight that feels really silly. When I first started doing lateral raises to sculpt out my delts, everyone was saying, you know, use this weight. And I was like, yeah, but I feel it in my traps. So instead I dropped down to like 1 pound weights so that I could really feel it in just that muscle until I felt strong enough to go up enough. And now I do lateral raises with 20s. You know what I mean? So good form, start with low weight, do your reps to failure. Push yourself to the point where you can no longer do a good rep. This doesn't mean the point that you can't do an exercise anymore. Failure means the point that you can't do an exercise with good form anymore. Don't keep going until you literally can't, because that's how you hurt yourself. Keep going until you feel like, oh, my other muscles are taking over. Oh, I can't keep my core engaged for this. In terms of actually structuring your workouts, there's a lot of ways to go about it. I like to do like a day of push muscles and a day of back muscles and a day of legs and a day of cardio. But there's like lots of different ways you can do it. And my last workout tip is find great music to work out to. There's lots of different music and try to work out like to the beat. That makes it so much more fun for me.
One important note on this. Headphones.
Yeah, don't play music out loud at the gym. Or do what Max does, like a psychopath, and work out in total silence, which I do also like sometimes. It can be very meditative.
If you're chasing a mind-muscle connection, silence is the way to do it,
It
man.
can be.
I love it. It feels so zen.
Those are my beginner tips. And I will also pass it to my personal trainer, Max Chester.
I'm a little bit jealous because if you are new to working out, you are about to experience the best thing in the world and kind of why the type of workout you do doesn't matter. You're about to experience Newbie Gains.
Yeah.
We love Newbie Gains. This is a phenomenon where people who are new to working out experience incredible growth and adaptation in their body incredibly quickly. And people who've been working out for 10, 15 years have to fight every single day they're in the gym for small marginal gains. But beginners can go in and put on like 10 pounds of muscle in 6 months.
But beware the dip, because then it will slow down. And that's the point where you have to keep pushing to get more consistency.
Don't tie your value to the gradient of the curve that you're following. But it's going to be a lot of fun. And the point is, your body's super good at adapting for stuff, so you don't have to optimize everything right away. You can broadly be healthful and fuel yourself well and try and be active and increase your movement and maybe increase the amount of protein you're getting, and like you will see change. If you then get passionate about it and excited, I encourage you to go and pursue more information about nutrition or about workouts. Just a word of warning, there are a lot of people out there who maybe are trying to sell you a product. Not all of them are bad, some of them are fine, but just a couple of red flag things to look out for.
To say this maybe isn't the person I want to be taking this advice from on health and fitness.
If someone says you can spot reduce fat, like if they say you can crunch yourself and get rid of your belly,
not true.
Run, not true. Your body burns fat systemically. If someone says carbs are bad, run. Carbs are amazing and we love them. If someone talks too much about superfoods and weird things, like that's a bit of a weird one. All foods are super. We are lucky to have them and they can all be used differently. The idea that like a blueberry is going to save your life is not true. A little bit of common sense will get you a long way.
Yeah, there are some rabbit holes that you don't want to fall down, but stick with us, kids. We'll help you out.
Shred, go to Jeff Nippard.
Yeah.
I think that might be it for this episode, Jada. I hope that helped.
Episode 2 in the can. Wow. I hope it in case it helped. Isn't it? I hope it in case it helped. Thank you guys for watching, as always, and for trusting us with your wonderful questions.
Yeah.
If you have questions, drop them in the comments below. Subscribe and follow. Don't forget to hit that notification bell.
Smash that like button.
Wow, I hated that. But it's true. Drop your comments here. Drop them on my TikTok, my Instagram. I don't read DMs, so don't do that. But let us know the answers to today's hors d'oeuvres questions. Give us words that you've learned. Share your fun facts with us. We want to be learning from you guys. And we will see you next time. Have a great day.
Ciao, ciao.
Ba-da-ba-ba-da-ba.